A Most Miserable Christmas by Mick Foley with illustration by Josh Adams. The new kid moved to Ruscow Lane in the third week of December. He may have said a word or two, no one quite could remember. He struck the other kids as strange, with solemn eyes and slicked back hair. But as long as he stayed quiet, no one seemed to care. With the exception of one student who really cared. If the new kid would have known of this, he would have been quite scared. You see, the new kid was a new kid, and he could not prepare for the wrath of that one student, the anger, the despair. With just 1 hour until school let out, on the last day of the week, Miss Guerrero said, "Excuse me," before continuing to speak. She said, "I have a small assignment on the last day before vacation. Please write your list for Santa Claus without further hesitation." The notebooks then flew open, the pens and pencils, they moved freely. Happy kids gave words to dreams until a chilling voice said, "Really? Really? Really? Really?" The chilling voice belonged to the Miz, the kid who ruled the school. The toughest of the tough he was, the coolest of the cool. The Miz strutted down each rows of chairs, acting like a star. His tongue worked like a dagger, leaving tiny mental scars. He tore Kelly's list to shreds and called Seamus a big fool. He threatened Kofi Kingston with a wedgie after school. But the Miz had saved his worst for last. He had the new kid in his sights. He grabbed the paper from the boy and said, "What did the new kid write?" But nothing had been written down. The entire page was white. The Miz squinted to look again. Was there a problem with his sight? He blinked his eyes a couple times to confirm his vision was just fine. How would Santa know what toys to bring if all he saw were empty lines? He said, "Tell me why your page is blank before I get real rough." The new kid said, "The page is blank because I have enough. So I'm not asking Santa to bring me any stuff." "Enough!" the Miz yelled aloud. "Enough! Enough! Enough!" The Miz approached the new kid, and then he called his bluff. He said, "Listen closely, new kid. You can never have enough. So put that pencil on your page and ask Santa for some stuff." The new kid slowly shook his head and said, "No, I have enough." The other kids were stunned at first. They were not used to this. For several years they'd wondered how Miz stayed on Santa's good boy list. Wade and Natalia dared not laugh and hid their happy feelings. But Kofi Kingston jumped for joy. His head nearly touched the ceiling. The Miz's star was fading fast, so he thought up a lie real quick. He said, "The new kid is not writing because he doesn't like St. Nick." The new kid didn't even blink, though the Miz was in his face. He just did this thing where he rolled his wrist and then calmly made his case. "I'm a big fan of the man in red," he said. "I know Santa's job is tough. Many children need those toys, but as for me, I've got enough. When I need a toy, I'll ask for one. But an unneeded toy is junk. You can cut out all of the new kid stuff. My name is CM Punk." The Miz felt his whole world crumble when the children broke into applause. Why he had the new kid done this without the slightest cause. Miz was only being helpful, pointing out other people's flaws. He knew only one thing that could bring him back, a talk with Santa Claus. He dared not send his massive list. The cost of shipping would be sick. So he rode his bike to McMahonville Mall for a meeting with St. Nick. He forced and pushed his way up front. Boy, did he insist. It was an urgent, pressing matter. Santa had to see his list. He unrolled it like a sacred roll and said, "I want all of this ideally." Santa stroked his beard a bit, said, "Ho, ho, ho," and, "Really? Really? 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 Each year I try to warn you, but my warnings are dismissed. Then each year I end up giving in and put you on the good boy list. But this year I've hired a helper, an official good kid, bad kid elf. He's here. I'll introduce you, so you can talk to him yourself." Miz thought this would be easy. He had no doubt or fear. But the moment that he saw this elf, Miz felt his courage disappear. This elf was huge and shredded, just like heroes from the comics. He was a graduate of Hard Knocks U with a degree of thugonomics. "You're loud and rude with a bad attitude," the elf said. "Yeah, you act like you're a star, but according to the man in red, that's just not the way things are. I'll check the list and I insist you're not on it anymore. Now I think it's sun-elf time, where I show you to the door." Then the elf showed the Miz to the door. The Miz rode home with angry thoughts, both hands clenched in fists. "I've got to find a way," he thought, "to get on the good boy list." Then the Miz got an idea. The Miz got a miserable, awful idea. Miz went home and paced a bit, thinking of his plot, then wrote once more to Santa Claus. And he asked for a lot. Miz wrote nonstop for many hours before finally he relented. He even asked for several things that he had not yet been invented. Finally, at the bottom of this lengthy list of games, the Miz, that no good scoundrel signed CM Punk's full name. He felt a need for retribution. His pursuit became a quest. Below the name he carefully forged, the Miz wrote down his own address. Since the new kid was a new kid, he had not written Santa Claus a letter. Toys meant for Punk would go to Miz. He could not have planned this better. Miz mailed out the fake letter, and to make his intentions clear, he went up to his rooftop and painted "CM Punk lives here." With Christmas Eve upon him, the Miz perfected his cruel lies. He bought face paint and some dark hair dye to complete his punk disguise. He slicked back newly darkened hair and painted bags beneath his eyes. He taped up both his wrists with care and laughed, that nasty skunk. With the slicked back hair, the eyes and taped, he looked just like CM Punk. The Miz gazed into the winter sky, trying to catch a glimpse of Santa's sleigh. He fell asleep in moments, dreaming about his awesome Christmas day. But when the rays of Christmas morning shone down on Resco Lane, a happy Miz rose, then froze and let out a cry of pain. Not a single toy or present, not one package, small or big. No rock-a-locks, no sock-socks, not one cool broski wig. No boxes, bags, or Christmas tags, no stockings meant for stuffing. Miz did the math and realized he gotten absolutely nothing. Nothing, nothing, nothing. A startled Miz let out a gasp, standing over by the door. Was Santa's newest helper? How had he not noticed him before? The helper elf began to talk, and Miz felt his tiny heart begin to break. His Santa knows when you've been sleeping, and he knows when you're awake. Don't you think that he can tell if a letter is fake? Next year, how about being good just for goodness sake? Maybe if you're good next year, you'll get all that you expect. Try to be a real star, show tolerance and respect. Then the elf tossed Miz a stocking and said, "You've heard my words, now heed them. Keep the contents of the stocking close. You'll never know what you might need them." The Miz clutched the special stocking as the elf walked to the lawn. He waved his hand and said, "You can't see me," and like that, the elf was gone. Small snowflakes fell quite softly on the homes of Rascalline. Happy kids threw snowballs and played with their new games. They whistled and they shouted and called out to friends by name. "Hey Seamus! Hey Ryder! Hey Ziegler! Hey Barrett! We need a nose for our snowman. Can someone go find a carrot?" There was only one thing missing from this special Christmas day, so they all called to the new kid to see if he can come outside and play. For had it not been for CM Punk, they'd all be inside tucked away, hoping that the mighty Miz would not make them pay. When CM Punk came out to play, all the children followed in his tracks. He had a carrot for the snowman's nose and brought extras for snacks. He threw the football long and straight. He was an expert at Red Rover. He gathered all the kids around when Christmas Day was almost over. "I can tell you like to ask me why I did not ask for presents." The children nodded up and down, inquisitive but pleasant. "You may think that I received no gifts because I didn't ask for toys, but I received the gift of friendship, your laughter and your joys. If you listen very closely, you may hear a welcome noise." The kids did listen closely. My goodness, they were trying. Kofi Kingston heard it first. He said, "Do I hear something crying?" Zack Ryder was the next to speak, saying, "Could that be the Miz?" Kelly reassured them, "Oh, it is. Oh, yes, it is." They all listened to the sound of Miz, and the crying got much louder, 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 and louder, until finally it exploded like a match set to gunpowder. They looked and smiled at CM Punk and could not have been much prouder. The Miz's tears fell like rain that day. Some were heard to say, "He may have cried a billion tears on that Christmas day." Punk smiled and said, "I'll ask the man in red next year for some stuff. But this Christmas Day I'm proud to say you are my friends, and that's enough." Then before he turned away he said something, "Sometimes lessons learned are tough." Twinkling stars danced off drift of snow. Windows panes are frosted. One lone child walked down Rascal Lane, his supply of tears exhausted. How dare those other kids have fun, thought Miz. This thought left him annoyed. He saw the silly snowman, and felt it had to be destroyed. But something seemed to touch the Miz before he could harm the frosty fellow. He lost the urge to knock it down, or to turn it kinda yellow. The Miz stood still and stared a while, until the deep snow stung his feet. This snowman was quite handsome, but seemed somehow incomplete. He danced in place of frozen toes, then finally realized the snowman wasn't finished yet, because it had no eyes. The lack of ice was some surprise, but equally as shocking was knowing that he found at the bottom of his stocking. It was exactly what he needed to make a snowman whole. Mittens plunged into his pockets and produced 2 chunks of coal. At the moment that they did so, when the coal chunks left his pocket, Miz felt his spirit soaring, taking flight like on a rocket. He pressed those precious chunks of coal into the man made out of snow. If he'd known how good it felt to give, he had given long ago. One last tear fell that night. Miz understood the irony, for though the snowman got no eyes, it was Miz who now could see. That actually like a bully was not a bit of fun. He made the other children sad with the things that he had done. The gift of sight, a magic night, like an old-time Christmas card, until a loud voice yelled, "Excuse me, you're standing on my yard." But Miz was not discouraged, despite the grouchy talk. He wished his teacher Merry Christmas, and Eva shoveled off her walk. But the volume of Miss Guerrero's voice woke the neighbors with a start. Several kids on Ruscott Lane had witnessed Mrs. stunning change of heart. Smiles were shared, waves exchanged. CM Pug nodded in approval. Perched atop the Mrs. roof, a large elf worked on painting removal. He'd been witness to this unlikely scene as he watched the kids play in Christmas snow. The scene elf wrote this story down. He thought you'd like to know. He'd found a perfect dude to pen the rhymes, a tale for all mankind. We hope you have enjoyed this tale of Rascal Lane at Christmas time. Merry Christmas, everybody.